All right, everyone. Welcome to Chart Attack. This is Vishal from EQUITY.GURU, and today we're talking about semiconductors. Definitely be sure to take a look at TK's article on the deep dive on semiconductors and why he is bullish this sector. If you're into anything electronics, I think you guys know how important semiconductors are. I actually was purchasing a vehicle a few months ago, and we heard about all these supply chain issues. A lot of new cars weren't on the lot because of semiconductors. There was issues getting semiconductors, and that's when things sort of hit me, and I was like, "Oh, okay, maybe I should pay a bit more attention to it." Obviously, I sort of have because you've been seeing a lot of these semiconductor stocks just continue to break out. I have here SOX, the semiconductor ETF. You can also take a look here at VanEck ETF, semiconductor ETF, SMH. These are ways to play semiconductors, and you can see they're quite pricey, 308 per share. For SOX, 533 per share, because we're talking about some of the big companies that are the big boys. Recent moves here in AMD, which actually just had a record close today as well, not in record highs, but a record close. You can look at Micron, MU. You can look at NVDA as well. I just have Qualcomm here that I like to take a look at because it has sort of the Apple story there. And these are the big boys, right? Taiwan Semiconductors Manufacturing, TSM. They're the guys who outsource a lot of the semiconductors to bigger tech giants out there. And I think when you talk about semiconductors, you have to add an element of geopolitics to it. Taiwan, like I said, is known for being the semiconductor superpower, but in recent weeks or months, we've seen Chinese jets fly over Taiwan. The Taiwanese foreign minister saying, "Hey, China's preparing for an invasion." One day, maybe Chinese naval ships might block Taiwan shipping lanes, and then that could be an issue for countries that rely on Taiwan for semiconductors. So we're seeing now a move of these other countries in Asia opening up new supply chains for their semiconductors. I like to look at Japan just because Japan is obviously a very technology-focused economy, and they have a lot of technology industries there, and they rely a lot on semiconductors. So if something happens to Taiwan, Japan will have to find their semiconductors or build them themselves. Recently, South Korea is another good example. A lot of people are talking about South Korea being the next semiconductor superpower, but of course, there's that issue of North Korea above. And just recent news actually that came out on the 24th. So actually, yeah, on Wednesday, November 24th, Samsung plans to build a $17 billion chip plant in Texas. So not in South Korea, but now in Texas. So perhaps they are, taking a look at the future, and they're keeping an eye out on geopolitics, knowing that Asia might be a bit of an issue with a resurging China and perhaps even North Korea there. So this is quite big news, folks. 17 billion in Texas. So we are sort of seeing the shift away from supply chains, and one of our buddies, TK, he's sort of a bit upset that Taiwan Semiconductors is not a $1 trillion company just yet, and is a bit upset that Tesla beat Taiwan Semiconductor to that 1 trillion mark. But you can see here, we've just been ranging since April of this year. If we do get a breakout above 125, we're likely going up to test previous record highs here at 141. And, another lesson of why we like to wait for candle closes. That probably got a lot of people jumping in because they thought the breakout was happening. But instead, we sold off and closed below at the end of the day, trapping these bulls and squeezing them pretty much essentially. So that's why I think it's really important to wait for candle closes, especially when you're looking at that time frame. So in this case, we are looking at the daily chart. So we would want to see a daily candle close here above 125. Quick roundup on a few Canadian semiconductor companies. And again, look at our investors roundtable, where you'll hear some stats about semiconductors, which even surprised me because it is quite a small market, but a lot of potential in terms of growth. Poet Technologies here, we talked about. Not really liking this close, I have to be honest. We were watching this support here at around the 87-cent zone. You can also draw your line chart there to show where these levels are, but maybe we can just call it a zone, dragging it down here at 84, 85 cents. Watch to see how the next candle is. If we get a nice candle back above 85 here, then I think there's still some potential. But honestly, I think you need to reclaim that $1 zone again to be to shift bullish on Poet. But if you're a long-term investor, I would take a look at Poet and the technology that they have. Probably my favorite is actually Spectra7 Microsystems. And if you guys are interested in, say, the whole metaverse, Facebook and metaverse, virtual tech, augmented tech, that kind of stuff, take a look at these guys because they are sort of in that space. And hey, you never know, man. Maybe they're going to be selling their tech to people like Metaverse, I guess, because that's the new name for Facebook. It's Meta. But these guys announced some sales recently and a stock split. And as you guys can see, since that happened in August, there's been much better volume here on the stock compared to volume like this. And just recently, we took out the $2 zone here. Very good break here this week on the 22nd. And now, we just watch to see if we get a retest before we move higher, or if, we break down, right? Obviously, we don't want that breakdown. We want to see prices remain above $2 and continue higher. They do have earnings coming up next week on the 29th. It says here on my TradingView calendar. So that could be a trigger, but perhaps there are people in the inside, or, I don't want to say inside, but there may be people who know what might be coming out, and hence why we saw a really big volume, a 13% pop on the 23rd. And a breakout. So maybe people are entering positions, knowing that earnings are going to be good and a surprise. So put this at Spectra7 SEV, I think, at the top of your list. And we'll do one more here, QNC, Quantum Emotion. Take a look at their technology as well. Very interesting stuff. But this one's a bit more easier. We're looking at the support here at the 16 cent zone here. Once again, do your line chart if you need to draw your zones and your touches, and we look for areas that have been both support and resistance. So there's some potential of maybe a bottoming here at 22 cents, maybe a double bottom, but we needed to get that breakout above 27. It didn't happen. Instead, we closed below, making new lows and heading down lower. So we're going to be watching, as I said, this 16 to 17 cent zone, and we'll see what happens and if we can find some basing. So, overall, semiconductors, very good business. Obviously, a lot of the stocks are on the US side of the markets with your big boys like MU, AMD, NVDA. Keep an eye out here on TSM because I think this is actually a really nice chart setup. These are the type of ranges we like to watch and see. They pay a dividend, but of course, there is that big geopolitical issue with Taiwan. And definitely watch how supply chains evolve, right? South Korea doing their stuff. Japan will probably have to do their stuff as well. I know a couple of American companies are now investing heavily into semiconductors as well. And if you do like that space, there are some nice looking stocks here in Canada, which you can play for a longer term investment. And again, I emphasize Spectra7 SEV because I like the work that they are doing. That's it for me, folks. If you did like the video, give us a thumbs up. Be sure to follow us on all our social media profiles that are provided in the description box below. Join us over on Discord if you are interested in markets or a trader or investor. We talk about stuff there every day, what markets are moving and what markets are doing. And also, I want to hear what you guys have to say on semiconductors and where this industry or sector is going with the supply chain issues, with maybe geopolitical issues. Let me know what you guys think of even the Canadian semiconductor sector here as well, with some of these companies that we took a look at. I want to know what you guys are thinking and if you guys are bullish semiconductors. And I'll catch you guys all in our next video.